How often do you wake up feeling overwhelmed before the day even begins? The thing about motherhood is it's constant. You're always on, and your exhaustion, both physical and mental, feels never ending. We call that burnout, and you likely don't even realize that you have it. But if you feel like you're always on and you don't even know who you are anymore outside of mom or maybe working mom, you're very likely burnt out. But I promise you, there's a way out whereby you can feel like a person again. So today, let's talk about how to finally overcome mom burnout. And a lot of these tips might not be what you think. Hi, I'm Amanda, a busy full-time working mom, and I help moms just like you heal the feelings of losing yourself as a woman when you became a mother. And we do that by becoming more aligned with our soft feminine energy. Down below, you'll find a link to sign up for my newsletter where I share helpful tips to become more aligned in that feminine energy, live a softer life, and to enjoy your life more as a mother. If you clicked on this video, chances are you're feeling burnt out too. I've been there, and it felt horrible and helpless and honestly guilty as a mother to feel like that. But I've learned how to heal from and overcome it. And today I want to share what I've learned and implemented in my life with you, so that way you can learn how to heal and overcome the mom burnout in your life. And you'll want to stay till the end because I've included some practical, easy to implement homework so that way you can start healing right away. So what exactly is mom burnout? Let's start there, right? Because we have to understand it before we can begin to overcome it. Like I touched on, you get burnt out when you are always on. And as a mom, even when the house is quiet at 8 p.m., when all your little angels are sleeping, your brain doesn't really shut off. It doesn't end. Your brain doesn't get to clock out, and that never-endingness, well, frankly, it can feel debilitating. At least that was my experience. And the thing is, it happens so slowly over time that you might not even realize that it's happened. So how do you identify if you have burnout? Well, to start, there's something called the Maslow Burnout Inventory, and it consists of 3 things. The first part is emotional exhaustion, where you're feeling emotionally drained and lacking pretty much all energy. The second is depersonalization, where you're becoming detached or negative towards others. And number 3 is the feeling of a loss of personal accomplishment, feeling incompetent or ineffective in your role. And that could be specifically your role as a mom, or even as your role as a wife, or as an employee in your job, or as a daughter. But it can also feel like just losing the zest for life, where everything just feels kind of blah and flat. Having feelings like, is this all that there is? This being taking care of kids and the house and your husband and going to work and everyone else's needs, doing the bare minimum for yourself, not having time for any of your hobbies, being the brain of your whole family unit. It can feel like chronic exhaustion or having an absolute disinterest for any hobbies or socialization, whether because you feel like you literally don't have the minutes in the day to do these things, or because you just don't even have the mental capacity to have the interest in something like hobbies or going out with your friends. It can feel like a lack of motivation or significantly increased stress and irritability. Or it can feel like having feelings of guilt when you do actually do something for yourself. And there are some certain personality traits that are just like an absolute breeding ground for burnout. Things like people pleasing, having perfectionism, the inability to say no, or the constant striving for more. It can often feel like depression or anxiety, even if those things are not officially diagnosed. Because you can certainly have intermittent feelings of depression or anxiety when you're experiencing burnout, while not actually officially having chronic depression or chronic anxiety. There is a difference. And speaking of differences, burnout can often be confused with stress, but it is different, but they're also the same. Let me explain. Burnout is often tied to long-term chronic stress, whereas stress typically refers to acute feelings of stress. Burnout is more chronic, stress is more acute. But here's where they're kind of the same. Acute stress can turn into chronic stress, which can turn into burnout. Said in another way, acute, short-term, intermittent stress is stress. But when that stress becomes chronic and constant and just like your new normal, That is burnout. So why does any of this even matter? Well, first and foremost, just in case no one else has told you this, come here, hold my hands, let me look you in the eye and tell you your joy matters. How you feel matters. You deserve so much more out of this life as a mom than just suffering through the burnout or suffering through the hardest parts of your motherhood journey. You know, when you have kids, you become a mom. You're a mom for life. That never changes. So motherhood isn't just about raising these children. It's not just about being a good mom. It's about learning how to be a person throughout this motherhood journey. And that matters so much, above all else. But just in case that wasn't enough motivation for you, because I know that it can be difficult for mothers to sometimes feel any sort of self-serving motivation, although you really should be your own motivation, in case you're not. Frankly, a burnt out mom isn't the best version of a mom for your children, nor is it the best version of a wife for your husband or employee for your employer. Because burnout extinguishes the fire inside you, and that leads to a lack of warmth and light for the people around you, for the people that you love the most. And I know that you don't want that for your family or for yourself as a mother. Not to mention, being constantly in this chronic elevated level of stress is horrible for your body. It weakens the immune system. It makes you more susceptible to disease and pain and fatigue. Because it's well researched that when you're constantly operating from that kind of place, eventually your body just doesn't take it anymore. It's not going to put up with it forever. And so if you don't decide to take it into your own hands, eventually one day at a time where it's probably extremely inconvenient, your body's going to say, no, I'm done. We're not doing this anymore. I refuse. Because burnout can only go on for so long before your body stops letting you get away with it. So the question obviously then becomes, well, how do we heal? How do we recover from this mom burnout? First of all, you need to stop accepting this as your normal state or having the mindset of, well, I guess this is just what motherhood is for me. You need to stop normalizing survival mode. It's not normal and it's not necessary. Let's please change it. One of the first steps is identifying your hidden stressors. And those are things that don't seem like they would cause you a lot of stress, but are actually causing you a lot of micro stress all throughout the day. These are things like spending too much time on social media, always being overstimulated by like a YouTube video or podcast or audiobook, paying too close of attention to the news. Those little things like that, they're stressful to your brain, and overstimulation is absolutely a contributing factor to burnout. You need to set strict boundaries, and this is a whole big topic that I can't go over completely in this video, but this, brief overview looks like setting boundaries with your work hours or when you're with the children, prioritizing your self-care. We're going to talk about this in a couple minutes. Please stick around because it's very, very important. Or communicating your emotional boundaries with your family members. The point is to establish those boundaries. You need to respect them before you can expect anyone else to. So create your boundaries, hold firm to them, and hold everyone else around you accountable to them as well. Okay, one of the most important steps to overcoming your mom burnout is becoming realigned with your feminine energy. And if you've been on my channel for a while, this is no shock to you because so much of my brain space and videos are dedicated to feminine energy because it is so critical to our experience of life as women. So I can't go into it too much. I do have a video up here all about how to heal your wounded and masculine energy. I highly recommend that you watch it because it goes into that in depth. But as a brief overview here, chances are if you're feeling burnt out, you are operating way too much from your masculine energy. So therefore, it's causing you to have wounded feminine energy, which is why life just feels wrong, why you feel unaligned, off balance, why things just feel not so good and wrong. Because the feminine energy is about softness and rest and flow and receiving. But as moms, ironically, something that should be the most inherently and naturally feminine thing in the world is filled with masculine energy draining activities. Because while feminine energy is very nurturing, a lot of motherhood is just doing and executing and logic and thinking and planning, all of which are very masculine tasks and things. So if the concept of feminine energy and healing wounded feminine energy is kind of foreign to you, I strongly recommend that you click on my channel and watch any of my videos about feminine energy, because healing that really is key to healing and overcoming your burnout. Because frankly, it's impossible to be burnt out if you are completely aligned with your feminine energies. So really simply put, if you heal your wounded feminine energy, you will no longer be burnt out, because the two can't happen at the same time. If you're burnt out, it's extremely likely that you were out of tune, out of touch with your own intuition. So part of healing your burnout is becoming in tune with your intuition, listening for it, and taking action on it, because your intuition will always lead you to what's for you, and what's for you will not burn you out, at least not chronically. So we're going to talk about self-care now, and I need you to listen very carefully, because it's not a luxury, and it also might not be the things that you think it is. Women are the soul of the earth, and we need nourishment to thrive. And we are also the heart of our families, so we need to take care of ourselves if we want to take care of our families. It's synonymous. I know you've heard the analogy of the fact that you can't pour from an empty cup or put on your own oxygen mask before anyone else. And that is so true. I know I cannot be a great mom. I can be a good enough mom, but I can't be a great mom if I'm not okay. I know that. So I prioritize taking care of myself, because I prioritize the well-being of my children and my husband and our overall family unit. So we absolutely must take care of ourselves. And I talk about this concept of true self-care a lot. And so for this video, I broke it down. I broke self-care down into two main categories and one third kind of half category. But the first thing we're going to talk about, because it's absolutely the most important, true self-care. So what does that mean? True self-care is things like prioritizing good nutrition, resting your body, resting your mind. There's a difference. Resting your body means getting enough sleep. Resting your mind means things like avoiding that overstimulation we talked about. It means having some time of nothingness, reading a book in quiet. It does not mean binge watching Netflix. That's not resting your mind. That's fun. You're allowed to have fun. But it is not giving you any check marks under resting your mind. True self-care also looks like doing exercise, but exercise that, one, you truly enjoy, and two, doesn't raise your cortisol. If you love super hard workouts, there's absolutely a time and place for that, but when you're trying to heal your burnout, is not that time or place. And better yet, there are certain exercises that you can do that will help you become more aligned with your feminine energy. These are things like swimming or yoga, dance, taking a walk in nature, Pilates, bar. All of those activities include movement that help you get into your body and become more aligned with your feminine energy, just simply by the nature of the exercises. Things like the particular style of movements, or the breath work that's involved, or the fact that walking outside in nature, spending time in nature will heal your wounded feminine energy like no other. So you get bonus points for those kinds of exercises. But the most important thing I want you to take from this is you want to avoid cortisol rising exercises, things like HIIT workouts or running, or I don't even know what else because I don't do them. Another huge piece of true self-care is practicing gratitude on a regular basis. The thing about gratitude is that you literally cannot simultaneously experience gratitude and stress at the same time. You literally cannot experience the two at the same time. So mathematically, the more time that you spend in a place of gratitude is less time that you're spending stressed. But specifically, your brain is most susceptible first thing in the morning, before you even get out of bed, like when your eyes are, you're just peeling them open. first thing in the morning and as you're falling asleep at night. Your brain is most susceptible at those 2 times. So the best way to incorporate this in your life is my favorite way. I used to be a chronic snoozer. I am no longer a chronic snoozer. I'm very proud of myself for that. But I do still snooze 1 time. But what I do is my alarm goes off in the morning. I hit snooze, I sit up in my bed, I prop my pillows up, I just relax. I don't lie back down because I'll fall asleep, but I just rest myself against my headboard and my pillows, and I just, with my eyes closed, just rattle off for 9 minutes. That's how long my snooze delay is for. Every single thing I can think of that I'm grateful for. And as I fall asleep, sometimes I don't do this every night, okay? I do the morning gratitude thing every morning. Sometimes I fall asleep reading, so I don't do it then. But if I'm not reading, then as my eyes are closed, as I'm trying to fall asleep, I do the same thing. I just rattle off, think of as many things I'm grateful for. Do what works best for you. Another thing that would be great is before you turn your bedside light off, is just to have a journal by your bed and just jot down 3 things that you're grateful for. That would be super beneficial as well. Speaking of journaling, anything that you can do to center your mind, like journaling, breath work, meditation, will all do wonders for taking care of yourself, taking care of your mind, and therefore helping to heal your burnout. Now, something that is so important to understand about stress is that your body needs to finish a stress cycle. So that means whenever your body identifies a threat, and to your mind, to your body, a threat could be as simple as your kid crying or not listening, anything that triggers you, right? Something stressful happening at work, someone cuts you off, anything that causes you stress. It doesn't have to be like a lion coming to attack your face. Those little minor stressors that just make up our days, to our bodies, that puts us in such a stressful state, and we might not even realize it. And we need to show our bodies that we're no longer in that stress cycle. And one of the best ways to do that is through breath work or exercise. So fortunately, this can kind of like be looped into some of the other tips I've already given, so you don't need to necessarily double up, but make sure that you are incorporating things that end that stress cycle for your body. Specifically something like yoga, really any exercise, but yoga is great because it also includes the breath work. If you aren't in a place where you can get in a workout, then just doing some breath work or meditation, even 5 minutes, can really give your body what it needs to complete the stress cycle, so that way it knows that there's no more threat. And lastly, prioritize serotonin and oxytocin over quick win dopamine hits. And simply, all I mean by this is instead of chasing dopamine highs from quick wins like scrolling on social media or eating a cookie out of the pantry, instead focus on oxytocin and serotonin inducing things that will bring deeper feelings of happiness and contentment. Things like going to give your kids a hug or spending some quiet time by yourself. And then, of course, if you think that you're someone who can benefit from therapy, please do that. Okay, so those were all things that fall under the true self-care category. And as I'm sure you can assume, those are the absolute most important. But also important is more fun self-care. Things like bubble baths, getting a massage or a pedicure, or going shopping or taking yourself out for a solo lunch date. Those are also self-care things, and I think they're so fun and so important, but they are not as important as the fundamental true self-care things that I just mentioned. So I want to separate them out. And then the last piece is social self-care. That would look like dates with your husband, or going for drinks with your girlfriends, or spending quality time with your children that you enjoy. Very important. The key is figure out what you love to do with your kids and start doing more of that rather than just tagging along with whatever activity they want to do. There's only so much Play-Doh a woman can do, right? So for me, this looks like coloring. I love coloring with my kids and they love it too. Puzzles. I love to take my Kindle outside if they're playing in the yard, or take it to the park. They can play, I can read, everyone wins. Or outings to places that you enjoy, like go to the fall apple orchard rather than the crazy indoor play place that you go to every other weekend. All right, now it's time for your practical application homework. Step 1, make a plan for truly taking care of yourself. Things like prioritizing your rest and your nutrition, your physical movement, and mental care like journaling or meditation. Prioritize those things, get them in your calendar if you need to. Just make sure that you are tending to them on a daily basis, especially when it comes to things like getting enough sleep and good nutrition. Step 2, specifically decide on something that is going to help you complete that stress cycle. Again, things like exercise or breath work, and those can all sort of be incorporated into the things from step 1. Just make sure that you do include things that will specifically help you end that stress cycle. And step 3, it's a fun one. Make it a priority to plan for at least one of those bonus self-care activities a week. Those things like going shopping, a lunch date with yourself, getting a massage, taking a bubble bath, whatever. All those fun bonus things that are also important, they're just not quite as important as the true self-care things. Recovering from burnout isn't a magical wand, but it is absolutely possible with consistent and diligent action. You are so important and you deserve to feel good. You deserve to have the most wonderful, beautiful motherhood experience. And it starts with taking personal responsibility for your well-being. It means prioritizing yourself, yes, even over your children sometimes, and making small and consistent changes to heal from your burnout and to avoid it ever coming back again in the future. Burnout isn't permanent, and I promise that if you follow the steps in this video, you will regain your joy and enjoy your life again. I think you'll really find this video helpful. It's how slowing down literally changed my family's life. And if you're experiencing burnout, everything that I share in this video will absolutely help you. Don't forget to sign up for my newsletter below. There's nothing worse than a crappy newsletter, so I promise not to send you one. I would love to have you subscribe and see you next time. Stay aligned.